Hey everyone, so it's time for another makeup inventory video, and I do these every 6 months, so I'm going to be comparing my numbers from the middle of 2021 until now. And I haven't done my finale for my no buy yet, so you guys don't really know what I've purchased in the last 3 months or so. So I am really excited for that video, but this one is just going to be all about the numbers. I did actually kind of restructure my whole makeup inventory, so I changed the way I counted things. So first of all, for face palettes, which I think I previously changed this about a year ago, where I count face palettes. If it is a face palette full of blushes, then I count it in my makeup inventory for, like, if I have a face palette of 3 blushes, I will count it in my makeup inventory as 3 single blushes. But if I have a face palette where it's a mixture of different types of cheek products, I will count it as a face palette. I hope that makes sense, but I also changed basically my bronzer, highlighter, and blush category. I just split into a powder section and a cream section because I have accumulated a lot more cream products this year, and I kind of think of those as 2 separate categories, so I wanted to count them as 2 separate categories. So I will tell you, like, the number of powders, the number of creams, and then the total number of bronzers, blushes, and highlighters that I have. So I hope that makes sense. I feel like it'll make more sense as we get into it, but let's just go ahead and get started. I'm also going to be telling you guys what I want my goal to be for that product, and some of these categories I have already reached my goal. They just kind of stay constant because I don't really have issues in overbuying those products. But the first category that we have is face primers. So I previously had 5 and now I still have 5. I did bring 1 or 2 into my collection, but I also finished off 1 or 2. So this is a category where once I finish one off, I will then repurchase. And I currently have 5. I would like to get that down to about 3. There are just a couple primers in my collection that are not my favorite that I would like to finish off. And I will also be doing my decluttering series. I like to do a decluttering series basically at the beginning of each year. So I'll kind of be doing my decluttering series after this makeup inventory. So my numbers I am expecting to go down somewhat from decluttering, but not extraordinarily. I feel like I don't have a ton of products that I want to declutter, but we'll see once I get into those declutters because it can turn out way differently than I am expecting. But the next category is foundation. I previously had 8 and now I have 5, which I guess that means I decluttered 3. I think there were just 3 in my collection that didn't match me very well, or I really just didn't like the finish of them. I would like to get this down to like 2 foundations, just because in the past year I have really not worn foundation, and I just prefer to use concealer and spot conceal rather than put a whole layer of foundation on my face. I feel like it just gets almost too cakey, but sometimes I do like a light coverage foundation just to apply to my whole face. If I want a really natural look, then I won't really apply as much concealer. I'll just apply a layer of almost like a tinted moisturizer type of product. So I would like to get this category down a lot because I basically just want to have some kind of tinted moisturizer and then maybe a little bit of a more full coverage foundation. But I don't see this going down very quickly because I'm not really going to be able to finish off foundations very quickly. Like I said, I'm just not really wearing foundation, so I don't want to force myself to use them. But I think after like graduating and going into the real world, I feel like I will wear foundation a little bit more potentially. Except another reason why I'm not wearing foundation is because I've had to wear a mask a lot of days, at least when I'm actually going out into civilization. So I feel like I stray away from wearing foundation, obviously, because I'm going to be wearing a mask that's covering it up anyways. So that's also another thing that is stopping me from wearing foundation. But I would like to get this category down. I don't think there's any that I want to declutter though, so we'll see how that category goes in the next 6 months. But the next category is concealer. This is one I'm like okay with because I love concealer and I go through it relatively quickly. And I previously had 2 and now I have 4. However, this is one where I have a concealer that I'm almost finished up, that I'm really close to finishing. And I have one that's way too dark or not way too dark, but it's a little bit too dark. And then I have one that's a little bit too light. And then I also counted some samples that I got from Kosas. I got a sample pack of a bunch of the shades of their concealer, so I just counted that as one concealer until I finished that off. So my goal with this is to have 2 concealers, which, like I said, one of these is a sample and one of them is a concealer that I'm almost finished with. So I'm not really worried about this category. I go through concealers like quickly anyways because I apply them every time I wear makeup. So I'm not worried about my concealer category at all. The next category is powder. I previously had 9 and I still have 9. So I want to get this down to about 3. I'm thinking I want like a pressed powder, a loose powder, and then a pressed powder that is more so a finishing powder. So I currently have 9, and powders just take really long for me to finish up, especially because I haven't been wearing a ton of powder recently. I do have 2 powders in my project pan, so I'm actually almost finished with one. So I'm happy. Well, I will be really happy when I get that out of my collection when I finish off, probably near the beginning of next year. So I'm kind of slowly and steadily making this category go down just because powder is like not my favorite category. Like there's not a ton of powders that I want to try. Like that's not the thing I overspend in, but I had previously just accumulated a bunch of powders in my collection and I don't want to declutter them. I'd rather just finish them off. So that's how I ended up with so many more than I want. The next category is brows. I previously had 5 and I currently still have 5. So this kind of seems like a lot for brows, but I have a couple that I just am like close to finishing off and maybe they aren't my favorite, so I kind of replaced it with another one, but I still have that old one in my collection. So I have 1 clear brow gel, 1 tinted brow gel, 1 brow pencil, and also one brow pen. And then I also recently purchased sort of a backup of a clear brow gel because I'm really close to being finished with my clear brow gel that I'm using now. It's just a little mini size, so this will definitely go down. I pretty much want to have, I wrote my goal as 4 because I want a clear brow gel, a tinted brow gel, and then a brow pencil, as well as like a tinted brow pen, which brow pens are something I'm getting more into and kind of experimenting with. So right now I kind of prefer brow pencils, so I don't see myself always having a brow pen in my collection. Sorry if the lighting just changed, the sun just went behind the clouds. But anyways, I'm okay with this category. Again, eyebrows is not something I overspend in, so I'm not really worried about it, similar to concealers. The next category we have is powder bronzer, and this is where the categories start to change from my last makeup inventory. So I don't have comparisons for like separate cream and powders. So right now I have 8 powder bronzers and I have 3 cream bronzers. So that is 11 in total. I previously had 8 bronzers in total. So this number has gone up. As you can see, I have purchased 3 cream bronzers because I've just been really interested in creams. And previously I didn't have a ton of creams in my collection. So I'm really actually happy with this category. I do definitely want less than 8 powder bronzers. That's a little bit much. My cream bronzers are currently at 3 and I am okay with that. Powder bronzer for me, going back to powders, I feel like just take forever to go through. Like I do have quite a few in my collection. I have 8 right now. I'd like to cut that in half, but there's not a ton that I want to declutter. I'd rather just finish them off. But there are a couple that I may declutter, so I don't see myself getting to this goal by my next makeup inventory, but I do see myself decreasing this at least a little bit. So 11 total bronzers isn't terrible. That's definitely one of like my better face product categories, but I would like to cut that maybe in half, if that. So I'd be happy just getting this down at all. I definitely don't want to increase this number, but I feel okay where I'm at with bronzers right now. The next category is powder blush. Now, blush, you guys probably know if you've been watching my videos, is where I kind of got out of control this year, and specifically in the last half of the year with cream blushes. So Powder blushes, I have 14, and cream blushes, I also have 14, which makes a total of 28 blushes. I previously had 19 blushes, so that's quite a bit. I know I went overboard with cream blushes this year. I'm not mad about it because I have been really obsessed with trying cream blushes, and I love pretty much everything I purchased. So this is a category I definitely want to get down. I definitely see myself decluttering some powder blushes just because I know I don't use those as frequently. I will put on a cream blush every single day, whereas a powder blush I may apply some days, but I won't necessarily apply them every day. So my powder blushes I definitely want to get down, but I feel like there's not really any blushes in my collection that I want to declutter. We'll see when I go through and do my whole collection declutter. But right now I'm thinking this will go down a ton, and it does take forever to use up blushes. So this is one where I just kind of accepted where I'm at, and I know this could be a little bit lower, and I do eventually want it to be lower, but I'm still like fine with the blushes I have in my collection because I do have a good ratio of powder to creams. Clearly I have the same amount. I would prefer to have maybe more creams, at least at this point. That's what I'm really into. So I've kind of accepted that number for now, but I know that I don't want to really purchase any more blushes in the coming year or so. So the next category is highlights. So for powder highlights, I currently have 12. For cream highlights, I have 5. So again, creams have definitely increased in my collection. That makes a total of 17 highlighters, whereas previously I had 16. So that's not too bad, especially compared to my blushes. I'm actually really happy with that I didn't increase that too much. I don't think I bought a ton of cream highlights. I think I actually only brought one powder highlight into my collection. So 12 powder highlights is quite a few, and I would like to get that number down. I do have maybe 1 or 2 in mind that I want to declutter, so I think that will definitely end up going down. Highlights is not something that is super like intriguing to me the way cream blushes are, so I don't see myself purchasing a ton of highlights in the upcoming year or so. I definitely want to get these numbers down, at least my powder highlights. I would definitely like to be lower than 12 powder highlights. My 5 cream highlights I am okay with for now, but I know there are some cream highlights in my collection that I don't love that I would like to get through and or declutter. So I do see that number going down even though I don't have a ton of them. So 17 highlights in total isn't too bad. I would like to get that down a little bit, at least to maybe like 10 or 12, which I do see myself doing by the next makeup inventory just through potentially decluttering. The next category is face palettes. I previously had 9 and I still have 9. I believe it is still the same 9. I would like to get this down a little bit. However, like you never really go through face palettes, or it's very, very tricky to go through face palettes. So I don't see myself completely using up a face palette. I've thought of sort of depotting some of them into like single pans instead of having the whole face palette where I don't necessarily use all the shades, but we'll get into more of that when I do my whole collection declutter. But 9 face palettes I'm kind of okay with for now. I don't feel like I have a ton of face palettes, but I would like to get this down a little bit just because I know that I don't reach for face palettes as nearly as much as I should. Next up we have eyeshadow palettes. This has previously been kind of my struggle category because eyeshadow palettes are just so fun to purchase. There's so many different color stories, so many different options. So I previously had 32 and now I'm down to 24, which I'm really, really happy about. I guess I ended up decluttering a bunch of them. I think I had previously done a declutter in the first half of the year, and then I must have done another declutter in the second half of the year. Depending on if I feel like there's products in my collection that I want to declutter, I will do almost like 2 declutters each year, 1 for each half of the year. So I am really happy with 24 eyeshadow palettes. However, I feel like I'm still not really able to get use out of my full eyeshadow palette collection and love it as much as I should. So I would like to get down to about 20 eyeshadow palettes. I'm also getting more into single eyeshadows. So actually, along with that, single eyeshadows is a category that I have added to my collection. So I'm not mad about being at 24 eyeshadow palettes in total because previously I had way more than that and it was a lot more overwhelming. So I'm kind of slowly curating my eyeshadow palette collection, and I do have a couple in mind that I would like to declutter. So the next category, like I said, is single eyeshadows. So this is a new category that I added, so I don't have previous numbers for this. But this is just single magnetic shadows that I put into my own little magnetic palette. So for this, I have 47 single eyeshadows, and I'm completely happy with this. I did end up purchasing some single shadows during Black Friday that I had been basically waiting to purchase for half of the year. So I am happy with this. My goal is 50, so I definitely don't want to go above 50 single eyeshadows. Like I said, I'm at 47 right now. I can see myself going above 50 if I end up getting my eyeshadow palette collection down a lot. Like if I decrease my number of eyeshadow palettes, then I would be okay with increasing my number of singles, just because I feel like with singles, you can curate it a lot more specifically to the type of colors you want to add into your collection. So I am happy with those couple of categories. The next category is single eyeshadows. So these are single like potted shadows or liquid shadows, just things that are in basically their own individual packaging. So for this, I have 11 single shadows. And I would like to get this down a little bit just because I tend not to reach for single shadows unless they're in projects. I am okay with having like maybe 5 or 6 single shadows in my collection because some of them do provide that really special effect to the lid, like a lot of those glittery lid toppers, and I do enjoy having them still in my collection. I just want to cut those numbers down a little bit because I know I don't use them as much as I should. The next category is eyeliners. You guys know I don't wear eyeliner. I previously had 2 in my collection and I still have 2. I believe one of them I decluttered, and then I brought another one into my collection through, I think it was just like a free gift that I got. And so I have one pencil eyeliner that is like a forest green shade, and then I have one liquid eyeliner, which the liquid eyeliner is the new one, and I really never use eyeliner, so I kind of just want to declutter both of them. But my goal for this is 0 because I don't see the need for me to have eyeliners in my collection when I literally never use them. I do really love the forest green eyeliner that I have just because it's a little bit more unique when I do want that specific look. But to have a liquid liner, I really never use liner, especially liquid. And if I do want liner, I'll just wear eyeshadow. So I do see this number like potentially going down. I would like it to be 0, but I'm not just gonna like declutter and throw out the products just to declutter them. Next, we are getting into lip products. So for lip liners, I previously had 11 and I still have 11, which I don't understand how this is possible because I did purchase one lip liner and I don't remember getting rid of any, but I do have a lip liner in a project pan right now that I probably will just end up throwing out at the end of the year. So my lip liners is a category where it's not like super overwhelming because I only have 11 of them, which may seem like a lot, may seem like a little to some people, but I think for myself, I do want to get this down a little bit and just have a very curated lip liner collection. I know there are some lip liners in my collection that are pretty similar, but I don't want to just declutter them. I would rather go through them. So I'm slowly making my way through my lip liners, but I would like this number to go down a little bit, but I'm not in a rush for it to go down. Next up, we have my liquid lipstick category. This was previously at 8 and it is now at 6, so I'm really happy about that going down. I guess I did end up decluttering a couple, so I would like this to be like maybe 2, but that might be a little bit of an unrealistic goal. Right now I have 6 and I see myself maybe going down to like 4, so I'm actually going to change that goal to 4 because the classic liquid lipstick formula I know I do not want in my collection, but liquid lipsticks, especially nowadays, they're coming out with like new types of formula and more innovative products. So I would consider like purchasing liquid lipsticks that aren't that traditional really dry matte formula. I'm like thinking of more of that moussey type of hydrating, not as uncomfortable on the lips type of formula. So I would be okay with having some liquid lipsticks in my collection just to have like a variety of formulas for different occasions. But I know this probably won't go down to like 0 because even though I never really use the traditional liquid lipsticks, I do still enjoy like a more moussey liquid lipstick type of formula that's more hydrating and less uncomfortable on the lips. Next up for lipsticks, I previously had 22. I still have 22, so I'm really happy with that. I would like to get this number down definitely a lot because lipsticks take forever to go through, and I find that I'm not getting use out of all the lipsticks in my collection. So for lipsticks, I count this just as like anything in a stick form that's more of like a solid compared to lip glosses where it's like clearly a liquid sort of gloss. So lipsticks, this can also count as like tinted lip balm type products, which I know I have quite a few of, so I do see this number going down. I would like to try to use up a lot of tinted lip balms and lip glosses you'll see in the next category. So next year I definitely want to focus on a lot of lip products. I would like to get this number down, but I'm not in like a rush to get it down. I do see myself maybe decluttering a couple lipsticks, so I definitely will go down by the next update. But now getting into lip glosses, I previously had 26 and now I have 29, which isn't terrible. It increased by 3, so I'm not mad about that. I have been really loving lip glosses, and I've been getting into a lot more hydrating formulas, so they're more like lip balms for me, so I feel like I can go through them a lot faster than your traditional sort of lip gloss that has quite a bit of pigment to it. I feel like I'm getting more into those sheer, almost lip oil type of formulas, so I'm not mad about having 29. I definitely would want this number to decrease, and I don't want to purchase any more lip glosses in the coming year or so. So I am looking forward to finishing off some of those glosses and having a lot of empties in 2022. I would like to get it down to at least about 20, I'm thinking, even though when I get to that 20 number, I probably will either want to get it down lower, or I might be fine with that number since they are more nourishing, hydrating lip products that I'm getting into for lip glosses. I also wanted to just add up the total number of lip products that I have, just because I thought it would be interesting to see. So previously I had 67 lip products in total, and now I have 68 lip products in total. So when you look at the overall lip product number, it really isn't that much of an increase, so that's really not too bad. I definitely want less than 60 lip products in my collection. I feel like that's a little bit much, and I can't really get use out of all of them. So now for the total count, also remember that I added in my single eyeshadow category, so that right there added almost 50 products. So for my total product count, I previously had 193, which was really great. My goal was to get my category, or to get my total number below 200, which I did. And now my count is 245. Also remembering that we added in 47 single eyeshadows that were not previously counted as single eyeshadows. So my goal now, if you kind of do the math, is to have less than 250 just with those single shadows added in and just counted differently. So I am still under that 250 goal, which I'm really happy about. I definitely see this number going down. I think I want to try to get back to that under 200 mark. Even though I added in those 50 single shadows, eventually I would again like to be under 200 with those single shadows counted in there. So overall, I am happy with my makeup inventory. There are a few categories like cream blushes, specifically only cream blushes, and lip glosses that I would like to work on next year especially, and really just using my collection a lot more, hitting a lot more pans, and which has basically been my goal since I started this channel. So I'm really excited for next year to see how far I get, how many products I actually use up. I'm also really excited to declutter my collection because I know there's some products that have just been sitting there that have not been getting love that I just don't need to have in my collection anymore. So stay tuned if you want to see more videos like this and more declutter videos coming soon, and also more sort of project pan finales and end of year wrap up type videos. These are like my favorite types of videos to film. I feel like the most exciting time of the year is in like December, January, and then in the middle of the year when I get to update my makeup inventory and all these fun projects. So I just really love creating videos for you guys and doing a bunch of project pans. In 2022, I will also be participating in, I feel like, a lot more project pans than I previously have, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And I'm really excited to put out more content for you in the coming months, and I'm really excited for the type of content that I have coming. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see more from me. Definitely give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I do post new videos 3 times a week. I'm currently posting 4 videos in the month of December just as a little special bonus for you guys. So I really hope you guys enjoy this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.